Good morning, everyone. Attorney General Marshall, with his family and friends, are here. The Attorney General will make a brief statement. We ask that there be no questions following his statement. Attorney General Marshall.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all for being here today. It's tough. This is tough. First of all, let me say thank you to the people in this room today. To be here to support us is so phenomenal, and we are so grateful. You knew her in life, and you knew her spirit. And the fact that you've taken your time to be here today, when we're not here to celebrate her life yet, means the world to the people who stand behind me. I also want to tell you that we have been overwhelmed by the texts, the calls, and most importantly, the prayers that have lifted us up in what has been one of the most difficult times of our lives. And so to the people of this community, to the people of this county, and to the people of this state, we are humbled, we're grateful, and we are thankful. But I will tell you this, it is not our desire to be here today. We were forced to be here today. I know I'm speaking to you in some ways as the Attorney General of Alabama, but I'm a dad, and I'm a husband. And I watched my daughter read a Reckless article last night that disclosed the circumstances of how Bridget died and where. And I watched my daughter in tears. Because Bridget is not a public figure. I am. She didn't want the limelight. She didn't want to be in front. She always was behind. And for Faith to suffer through that last night as a father angered me. And it angered our family. And so, when we should have been sharing stories of Bridget's life last night as a family, we were talking about how to respond. Because that story was only filled with half-truths. It's not the full story of how it is that we stand here so sad today. And what it gave rise to was the opportunity for rumor, for gossip, and for people to say things that were reckless. And we weren't going to stand for that. And as a dad, I'm not going to let my daughter go through that. But y'all, we also, together as a family, realized that maybe being transparent about how we got to the point where we did last Sunday could be helpful. Because we know that we are not the only family that has had to deal with a family member who suffered from mental health issues. And we know that Bridget is not the only person that ever considered suicide. And so it is our hope today to share her story, to also give strength to those families who have endured what we have endured. And maybe for that person who felt like Bridget did on Sunday morning, to know that there is hope and that there are people that love them. So here's Bridget's story. Early on in life, she suffered migraines. As a kid, she spent a lot of time in the bathroom because she was nauseous and sick. She'd come home, spend days in dark bedrooms, trying to get over the pain. But they didn't go away. It carried through her adult life and during the time that we were married. We went to many neurologists, another specialist. We spent 3 weeks at a migraine clinic in Chicago, but nothing helped. The only regimen that she ultimately was given was opioids. And it was during that period of time where doctors were trained. Maybe a little more will help if the first part doesn't solve the problem. And maybe a little more doesn't help. Maybe we just need to increase the frequency a little bit. And not only did she have hydrocodone, but ultimately fentanyl, an amazingly powerful drug. And Bridget became dependent. She became dependent on that medication. She went to inpatient treatment. Helped some, but she didn't completely embrace recovery. And even to the time of her death, did not always handle her medication in the way that she should. It's one reason why, professionally, you hear me talking about opioids, it's personal. And when I am involved in a ministry for recovery, it's personal for me. Because I've lived it and I've watched it, and I've seen how it has destroyed her in many ways. Not only did she suffer from dependency, but even early in life, as her mom and I were talking about earlier, she began to show signs of mental illness. And that's not a sign of weakness. Let's make that clear. Nobody wants to be mentally ill. Diagnosed during our marriage. And she got help, but that help didn't always work. To the point that as a family and as a husband, we filed a petition to commit her for inpatient treatment because she wouldn't go on her own. It was granted she went to North Alabama Regional and spent some time there and got out and continued to get help, but it didn't always work. As a family, we had, on more than one occasion, everybody gathered together to try to convince her again to go to inpatient care on her own. And she did, on more than one occasion. She got help. She suffered from major depressive disorder and anxiety, and it was hard. And being married to me probably didn't help, because it caused somebody who was anxious to also sometimes be in the public eye, and that is not where she wanted to be. She continued through her life to talk about death in a way that concerned us all, but yet continued to pray that she would get the help that she needed. Bridget also had physical problems as well, principally with stomach, to the point that she couldn't retain food. They had to hospitalize her for a while. She was fed by a feeding tube, continued to be fed by a feeding tube when she came home. But that continued to persist and be a struggle for her until the time of her death. Those are powerful things individually, but combined, awful combination for a woman that we love. Before I became AG and was given the opportunity to interview, I asked her, "Do you want me to do this?" She said, "Yeah, I do." Because she was my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. For whatever God's will was, I got the opportunity to serve as I do now. But that didn't necessarily make it easy for her. In fact, she made the decision to stay in Abbeville and not come to Montgomery because she just didn't want to be in the public eye. We sold our house in February of this year. And right before we had to move out, Bridget came to her parents and me and said, "I can't take this. I can't take this," because she felt like at that point that she was being followed. That folks were watching where she went and where she was going. And I don't know if it's true, but that was her perception and that was her reality. She also was worried for me because she had seen the negative articles that were false and malicious that were written by some that are on blogs and claim to be journalists. And she saw what they were doing in making up facts, and she was scared that somebody was going to write the fact that she was committed and that she had a problem and that those facts were going to be revealed to the world. And she didn't want that. And so her answer was to leave the state. Not because she didn't love her family, and that she didn't love her husband, but because of the way that she perceived her life. That was her only option. And while we begged her not to go, we had no choice but to let her. We didn't know the apartment. We knew the city that she was going to. We didn't learn the apartment until the month of May. We didn't learn her apartment number until this weekend. We respected her right to be away. But at the same time, she and I talked every day. Every day. And every day that conversation ended with, I love you. Every day she reminded me of what I had the opportunity to do in this job and how I had the opportunity to be able to make a difference. And she wanted to make sure that somehow, some way, she didn't get in the way. Bridget was a daddy's girl, and he was talking to her in the last couple of months, as was I, to say, come home. Come home. And she was reaching out to see about getting out of release. And telling us that maybe we could find a place for Steve and I in Albertville to rent until the election is over. And we saw progress. We saw progress. She came down on election night with the family. We had the opportunity to be able to be together. And she was as happy as I'd seen her in a long time. The next day was her birthday. She spent it with Faith and I. She came back to Albertville and had a big dinner with the people who loved her. And we saw a happiness in her that we hadn't seen in a while. And it was good. It was good. And then for whatever reason, something changed, and we don't know what. We had difficulty getting in touch with her. We couldn't find her sometimes to talk to her on the phone. And then she began to tell us about her stomach causing her problems again, and we said, go to the doctor. She said, I'm afraid they're going to put me in the hospital. We said, well, you probably need it then. But she didn't want to go. And then Saturday, strangely, she had bruises that showed up, not bruises, but blisters that showed up on her feet. It was odd, it was strange. We didn't know what it was. She didn't know what it was. Until Saturday night, after she had sent a picture to a lot of people to say, what is this? And why is this going on? Her parents talked to her, and I talked to her, and we convinced her to go to the hospital the next day. And she said she would go. And that's how we knew what her apartment number was. Her mom and dad planned to drive up there the next morning to get her, take her to the hospital. Her mom packed her bag to be able to stay with her for a couple of days to help her. And they called Sunday morning. And she said, I won't be alive when you get here. I won't be alive when you get here. And Bridget's mom called me and told me. And said, let me talk to her. We got on the phone with her. And I just talked to the person that had no hope. She said, I don't have a purpose. And I'm tired. My body's failing me. I don't know why. I've had pain for a long time and I don't want to endure it anymore, and I'm just a burden. And I told her why she wasn't. And I told her how she was loved. As a guy who professionally is supposed to be able to convince people with words to do something, I couldn't reach her. And she said, I'm tired of being tired. She said, I'm tired of being tired. And I just want to go. And then she said, do you want to hear it? And I was like, no, I don't. And then she hung up the phone. And we had called the police. And I continued to call her phone, and she didn't answer. And then we learned that she had died from a gunshot wound in that apartment. and our lives changed, and changed forever. That's her story. And we don't share that lightly, because it's the most personal secret this family has. But yet that was robbed from us. But I hope it also affects others. I've gotten more texts this morning about people who shared family stories of their own. And they said they understood. But I can tell you this. There's never a doubt of her love for the people who are standing behind me, or our love for her. But what we're forced with is somewhat of the question of why. All of us over the last couple of days each talked about what could we have done? How could we have somehow or another done something that would have changed how she perceived herself and others? For me, I wondered whether or not, if I wasn't Attorney General, she'd still be alive. If I hadn't chosen public service, whether she would still be here today. And I'll be haunted for that for the rest of my life, as I will those words and my failure to be able to make her understand that she didn't need to do what she did. That is the story of her death. But what we want to be able to focus on is the story of her life. And the people that are here today know what a beautiful woman she was. And it wasn't just outside, because she was absolutely stunning. But it was inside as well. I could poll this room, and how many of you would raise your hands about how she affected you in a positive way? Because that was her heart, and that was her spirit. I'm going to hold on to that. I hope someday to be able to forget that conversation I had with her that Sunday morning. And I'm going to remember what she did for others. Linda, why don't you jump in with Brandon? Faith, come here. Now here's our ask. This family has suffered great tragedy over the years. Bridget is the third suicide that we've endured. We lost a remarkable young man in Austin Gentry who died way too soon. And now Faith today is going to view her mother wearing the wedding dress that she bought to wear at Faith's wedding. We just want to grieve. We just want to be able to mourn. And we don't want to talk about her death, but we want to talk about her life. And we're going to start today. We're going to be able to go, and we're going to be able to see her today. And in some ways say our goodbyes. And tomorrow we're going to visit with many of you that are here and others that will come pay their respects. And Friday, we will have an opportunity to be able to celebrate her. And I look forward to being able to talk at that service, maybe feeling more led than I've ever felt in my life to be able to share who she was. And I hope I can do it well. I hope I can do it well. Y'all, it's times like this that I wonder why anybody wants to be in public service, why anybody wants to run for office, because somehow or another it makes others in their lives public. And that's not fair to them. She didn't deserve this. But what I know right now is Wayne and Linda desperately miss their daughter. But Brian and Brandon absolutely feel the loss of a sister. And Faith, who is the most precious thing in my life, and I will do anything to defend her, no longer has her mother. And for me, at some point, I've got to go back to Montgomery. And I'm going to go, unfortunately, alone. Because my biggest supporter and my biggest fan, and what may be one of the most difficult periods of my life, personally and professionally, will not be there behind me. But y'all, there's a special place that I'll have, because I told you she came down on election night. It's the last night that we spent together. The next day we went out and celebrated her birthday, and we had so much joy. And I was around that afternoon working on stuff to try to keep my job. But I didn't know that she had left a note for me on my dresser. And this is what she said. Steve, I knew you would pull this off. It was a great birthday gift I knew was coming. You are the man for the job in Alabama. I love you more than you'll ever know, and couldn't be more proud of how you handled it all, as you always do, with grace. I love you. Love, Bridget. That is the woman I will celebrate this week. That is the life that I will share with others. And that is the life that I will remember. Please allow us to celebrate that life and to no longer have to discuss her death. Y'all be here.
This concludes the Attorney General's press conference. We ask that the media please prepare to exit the room. The Attorney General will be visiting with family and friends and request some privacy. Thank you very much.